The second mini lesson is on Dojo, connecting with parents. Again, ClassDojo is a free online behavior management program for teachers, students, and parents. And we're going to focus on the parental aspect now. So once you sign in, I'm going to my sample class right now. And as we track the students, their positive points are in green, the points that they have spent or have been deducted are in red. Now, this particular student, once you give them a point, you can give them a point, and then you can add a note. You can say why they were given the point or what was going on that made that happen. And it tracks it. So why is that important? If we go to stories, we can then click on the student, and it keeps notes about how the student is doing. You can say, this student has been super helpful. When other students aren't sure how to do something, she helps them without being asked. Yesterday in history, when students were giving presentations, she helped students pronounce words they struggled with. She was very encouraging and supportive. So once you type it in, you can post it. And then, depending on how you want to use it, you can look back, the student can look back, parents can look back and check and see how their child is doing. This is the feature that brings parents into communication and connection with how their students, their children are doing in class. Each parent can get an invitation. By inviting parents, they can read the story of their child, how they're doing. They can view the points of their child, how they're earning points for positive behavior, and how they are having points deducted for skills that they're working on. I found this extremely helpful in my classroom because it was current and live. I didn't have to remember to write it down on a progress report or the 9 weeks. What happened 3 weeks ago? What incident did that person do really well or did that student struggle with? Instead, I can come back here, I can look, there's data, there's information, there's details to support what I'm talking about. If I want to reflect on it, but more importantly, by having the parents connected, you can push notifications through their phone, you can send them notifications on their email, and they will know that very moment, that very day, that something is happening. And for parents that want to be involved, they're so on board with wanting to know more. And for parents that kind of have a disconnect with what's happening in the classroom, with behavior issues in school, this gives you a chance to connect with them, and the parent can respond back to you as well. So there can be an ongoing dialogue when it's fresh. And if the parent is connected, they can talk to their child that very day about the issue or about the positive thing and not have to wait until you tell them later. So, messages. The challenge about messaging with parents is you have to get them to connect, to accept those requests that you send them. Once you do that, there is this link between what happens at school and the parent. Here you can see that you can also print out take-home reports. So if you have a parent that may not be connected to the internet, or they have not yet accepted your invitation to join ClassDojo, you can send a printout home. But as I was saying, with the students being on board and really getting to understand the program prior to using it, it's also beneficial to take the time to do that with parents as well. And so at the beginning of the school year at our school, parents have to come in to sign like media release, sports. They have to watch a video for sports. There's a whole packet of things that they need to sign and be a part of. And by including a little information about this at that time, it is something that they're aware of. And you're able to go back and talk to them again later. But to have that conversation in person rather than just sending a flyer home is much more effective in getting parents on board and connected with what's happening in the classroom. The other thing that I notice is the more excited students are about the program, about them meeting their goals, the more they talk about it with their parents. And the parents want to find out more information. So this particular aspect is something a little step farther than just tokens in the classroom. You know, handing out something, them spending it, banana bucks or whatever it may happen to be. This is not a tangible badge, but it is a way to visualize it and see it happening in the moment. If I didn't put up this screen in class, students would remind me, you got to put up ClassDojo. They wanted to have participation in their activity, and they wanted to reach those goals. And throughout the semester and throughout the quarters, students would change their goals. And so easily enough, if we found that we were doing really well with our positive and we thought we have the smooth transition down, we don't need it anymore, we could easily edit it and get rid of it. Or we could up the ante and have higher expectations as a class. Reading log, something that they needed to do on a weekly basis by turning it in. Once they mastered this, we could up the ante on the expectation of what they needed to do with their reading log in order to get the points. Students wanted to earn points, but they also saw that they were making progress. So every week I had a little mini conference with my students about their grades and how they're doing, their goals academically. And one thing I started to do was look at their reports in ClassDojo and compare it to how they were doing with their grades in class and their attendance, so they could look for correlations on their positive behavior points increasing and their academic grades improving. For them to see this correlation was very helpful. So once we had our conferences, students would help me go into stories, and they could write an entry for themselves that they could write and their parents could get. As a class, sometimes we set goals as a class, and we would let the parents know what was happening. All parents would get the same message. Sometimes we even included pictures. Like when we were dissecting frogs, we took pictures of what we were doing in class. It didn't take the place of the school newsletter, but it kind of inserted what we were doing on a regular basis and not having to just wait for our little section of the school newspaper. These are the really high benefits of ClassDojo. Super high engagement of students in the choices they make toward the behaviors that they want to improve upon. And you can add it any skill you want. You can also add any skill that they need to work on. By students having input in the behaviors that are focused on in class, they have a tendency to be more connected to that process. Getting parents involved is critical, and this program allows you to do it in a way that involves the students in a positive way and rewards students for positive behaviors and tracks them in how they're doing with both positive and the areas that they're challenged with. So I would encourage you to sign up for ClassDojo, create a class or several classes depending on the structure of your classroom, and with your students determine what behaviors you want to focus on.